Senator Natasha Akpoti's fight for justice escalates amid global scrutiny. By Wealth Sphere Media, political analyst, a political firestorm, Senator Natasha Akpoti's suspension sparks. National outrage Nigerian politics is once again at a boiling point following the suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who has become the center of an explosive debate on political suppression, gender discrimination, and abuse of power. Representing Kogi Central, Akpoti-Uduaghan found herself in a political storm after publicly accusing Senate President Godswill Akpabio of sexual harassment, alleging that he sought sexual favors in exchange for advancing her legislative proposals. The Senate, however, denied that her suspension had anything to do with these claims, instead citing misconduct, insubordination, and procedural violations. The Senate's actions on March 6, 2025 sparked an uproar, with many questioning whether the punishment was truly about decorum or a strategic silencing of a woman who dared to speak against power. Critics argue that the timing and severity of the suspension make it clear that Akpoti-Uduaghan's real offense was challenging the status quo. Meanwhile, Senate President Akpabio has firmly denied any wrongdoing, dismissing her allegations as fabricated attempts to smear his reputation. Beyond the political back and forth, the controversy has ignited conversations about Nigeria's dismal record on women's representation in politics. With only 3.6% of political offices held by women and an even lower 2.8% representation in the Senate, Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension further shrinks the already limited female voice in governance. This is not just about one senator it is, about the institutional barriers that continue to exclude women from leadership roles. Adding fuel to the fire, reports have emerged of deceptive tactics allegedly employed in Kogi State to force a recall petition against Akpoti-Uduaghan. Community members claimed they were lured under the pretense of an empowerment program, only to be pressured into signing a recall document. Outraged, the people rejected the bribe and walked away, a bold rejection of what they saw as a manipulative political ploy. Allegations and Senate's response: a classic case of power versus accountability. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has not held back in detailing her allegations against Senate President Godswill Akpabio, claiming that he hinted at advancing her legislative motion if she took care of him. She further alleged that Akpabio made inappropriate remarks and suggested they spend private time together during a tour of his residence. Despite the weight of these allegations, the Senate's Ethics Committee refused to investigate the claims, dismissing her petition on procedural technicalities. The committee stated that a senator cannot personally submit a petition. They authored an argument that many critics see as a convenient loophole to avoid addressing the accusations. Instead of allowing her to refile the petition properly, the Senate swiftly moved to punish her, citing misconduct such as refusing to sit in her assigned seat, speaking without recognition, and making abusive remarks toward Senate leadership. The Senate's defense? Akpoti-Uduaghan wasn't suspended because of her accusations, but because of her behavior. According to Senate leader Opayemi Bamidele, her actions violated parliamentary rules, and her punishment was necessary to preserve decorum. However, skeptics point out the double standard male senators accused of misconduct in the past have faced little to no consequences, while a female senator who exposed potential abuse of power was swiftly removed from her position. This brings us to the elephant in the room. If the petition was improperly submitted, why not allow her to correct the process? If the Senate was truly committed to transparency, why didn't they launch an independent investigation? These unanswered questions fuel suspicions that this was never about protocol but about protecting powerful figures. Public outcry and the growing resistance movement. The fallout from Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension has sparked massive protests, with women's rights groups, political activists, and civil society organizations rallying under the banner, "We Are All Natasha." The movement is a symbolic rejection of the systemic oppression of women in Nigerian politics, where female politicians often face harassment, intimidation, and exclusion. Demonstrations have spread across Nigeria, with activists demanding her reinstatement and an independent probe into the allegations against Akpabio. Protesters argue that if a female senator can be treated this way, then ordinary Nigerian women stand no chance of receiving justice in cases of workplace harassment, domestic violence, or political discrimination. The case has become a microcosm of a larger fight for gender equality in a country where patriarchy still dictates many aspects of governance and society. Adding to the drama, allegations have surfaced that government officials attempted to manipulate public opinion against Akpoti Uduaghan by bribing citizens in Kogi State to sign a recall petition. Reports indicate that residents were invited to an empowerment program only to discover that they were expected to endorse a motion to remove the senator from office. The people's refusal to participate has been widely celebrated as a moment of political resistance, proving that grassroots movements are beginning to challenge the old ways of doing politics in Nigeria. Meanwhile, international media outlets and human rights organizations have taken a keen interest in the case, placing pressure on the Nigerian government to ensure a fair process. The hashtag #DutcherJustice for Natasha continues to trend across social media, bringing global visibility to the senator's fight. International attention, and what's next? With Nigerian authorities failing to investigate her harassment claims, Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan has taken her fight beyond Nigeria's borders, addressing the United Nations, UN, and the Inter-Parliamentary Union, IPU. Speaking at the 69th session of the UN Commission on the Status of Women, she highlighted the systemic challenges Nigerian women face in politics and called for international intervention to hold Nigeria accountable for its treatment of female leaders. This strategic move has put Nigeria under global scrutiny, forcing the government to respond. Honorable Kafilat Adetola Obara, chair of the House Committee on Women and Social Development, was sent to present the Senate's official stance at the international forum. While her speech reiterated Nigeria's commitment to justice and due process, it failed to address the fundamental issue of why Akpoti Uduaghan's harassment claims were never investigated. As the battle escalates, the next steps will be critical. Will the Nigerian judiciary take up Akpoti Uduaghan's case and grant her a fair hearing? Will the Senate face increasing pressure to reinstate her? Or will the political establishment continue its attempt to silence her, hoping the global attention fades away? One thing is certain, this case is no longer just about one senator. It is about the future of Nigerian democracy, the role of women in leadership, and whether the system will ever be held accountable. And this time, the world.